Subject: my wife cheated on me with multiple colleagues. I divorced her. Hi, true story. My name is Ray, and I've been following your channel for a little while now. At first, I'll admit, I didn't think sending in my story was necessary because I thought I had already put my past behind me. But after watching video after video and hearing stories from men around the world, I realized something. Telling my story isn't just about me venting. It's about maybe helping another man out there who's ignoring the same red flags I did, thinking everything will work itself out. I ignored those signs, made excuses for my ex-wife, and convinced myself that love could cover up cracks that were there from the very beginning. I had to learn the hard way, but maybe someone else doesn't have to. So here it is, my story. I met my ex-wife when we were both 22. We were in community college, trying to figure out life, sitting in the back of an English class. She had this loud laugh that kind of annoyed me at first, but she also had this way of making everyone notice her without even trying. I was the quiet one, the guy who just wanted to go to class, do the work, and get out. She was the complete opposite, loud, social, always talking to everybody. I don't know why, but she gravitated toward me. At first, I thought it was strange. I wasn't used to girls like her being interested in me. She was the type who always had a crowd of friends, always talking about the latest party or who was dating who, but she singled me out. She started sitting next to me in class, asking me questions she already knew the answer to, just to start a conversation. We exchanged numbers, and before I knew it, we were hanging out almost every day. Looking back, one of the first red flags was how much she projected her fears onto me. She used to ask me if I'd ever cheat on her. At the time, I thought it meant she really liked me. I thought, wow, she must care about me so much that she is scared to lose me. She would accuse me of looking at other women, even when I wasn't. She'd say things like, I know guys, you all cheat eventually. But the truth was, she was probably talking about herself. I just didn't know it yet. We dated for 3 years before we got married. During those years, I missed so many red flags. She had this habit of disappearing at odd hours. She'd say she was working on a group project or studying with classmates. Sometimes she'd go out with her coworkers from her part-time job and come back smelling like men's cologne. I asked her about it once, and she flipped it back on me saying I was insecure and didn't trust her. I let it go because I didn't want to be that guy. My friends even pointed it out. My best friend Marcus once told me, Ray, she's not as innocent as she pretends to be. I brushed him off. When we finally got married, I thought all of that would be behind us. I told myself that marriage would settle her down. Man, was I wrong. Even on our honeymoon, something happened that should have told me everything I needed to know. We were in the hotel, enjoying ourselves, when her phone buzzed. I glanced at it and saw a message pop up from someone saved as work. I thought it was odd because who saves a contact as just work? I asked her about it and told her to let me see the phone. She got defensive immediately. She snatched it away and started a huge argument on our honeymoon. She said I was ruining the mood and being paranoid. Instead of standing my ground, I backed off. I told myself I didn't want to fight during our honeymoon, but deep down, I knew something was wrong. As the years went on, little things kept piling up. She was constantly texting. She worked late nights even though her job didn't require it. She suddenly cared about how she looked for work, but not when we went out together. She had this group of friends, girls who I couldn't stand. They were always encouraging her to live her best life, which was code for partying, drinking, and doing whatever they wanted, regardless of being married. I didn't like being around them. I remember one night we all went out together, and one of her friends made a joke about keeping secrets from the husbands. They laughed like it was nothing, but I couldn't shake it. Eventually, I couldn't ignore it anymore. The truth came out in the ugliest way possible. I found out she wasn't just cheating on me with one guy. She was sleeping with multiple colleagues. Yes, plural, multiple. And here's the kicker. She had been doing it since we were dating. Years of lies, years of me being the fool who thought I had a loyal wife, all gone in an instant. The way I found out was almost like a gut punch. She had left her laptop open one night. I wasn't snooping. I was literally just going to use it to check something. But the messages were right there. Flirty texts, photos, even plans to meet up after work. She was juggling more than one guy. My heart sank. I felt like the biggest idiot on earth. I remembered every late night, every argument where she flipped things on me, every time she accused me of cheating. It all made sense. She wasn't afraid of me cheating. She was terrified I'd do what she was already doing. I felt so stupid. I kept thinking, how did I not see this? How did I ignore the signs? I was angry at her, but I was also angry at myself. I didn't even know where to start, but thankfully, I had an older cousin who had been through divorce before. I called him, and he hooked me up with a lawyer. That was the beginning of the end. When I served her divorce papers, I'll never forget her reaction. She cried like I had just blindsided her. She said, "Please, Ray, I don't want this divorce." She told me she had a sex addiction, that it had nothing to do with me, that I was great in the bedroom, but she just needed more. And then, as if that wasn't insulting enough, she suggested we try an open relationship. She thought that would solve everything. Like me sharing my wife with her coworkers would somehow make it okay. That was it for me. I kicked her out of our apartment that same week. I couldn't look at her the same way anymore. I didn't care if she was crying or begging. I had wasted enough of my life on someone who didn't respect me. The divorce process was rough, but I kept my head down and pushed through. Every court hearing, I saw her sitting there looking depressed, barely saying a word. The only thing she ever managed to say was, "I don't want this divorce." But I didn't care anymore. I couldn't let her guilt me back into misery. Eventually, the divorce was finalized, and I was free. Since then, my life has changed. It sucks that I had to go through all of that pain to get to where I am now, but I can honestly say I'm better off. I've learned so many life lessons. First, trust your gut. If something feels off, it probably is. Don't let love blind you. Don't make excuses for red flags. Second, watch the company your partner keeps. My ex-wife's friends were trash. I knew it, but I told myself it wasn't a big deal. But the truth is, you are who you hang around. If all your friends are cheaters, partiers, and liars, chances are you're the same. Third, never let someone make you feel crazy for asking reasonable questions. I can't tell you how many times she gaslit me into believing I was insecure when I was actually right. Finally, love yourself enough to walk away. I wasted years thinking marriage would change her, but people don't change unless they want to. She never wanted to. To the young guys watching your channel, please learn from me. Don't ignore the red flags. Don't settle for someone who doesn't respect you. Don't let love blind you into wasting years of your life. I thought I had found my forever person, but what I really found was a lesson. And you know what? I'm okay with that now. I moved on, I rebuilt my life, and I refuse to let her mistakes define me. When you go through what I went through, finding out your wife of 7 years has been sleeping around with multiple colleagues, lying to you since you were dating, and then trying to flip it back on you, you don't just walk away clean. Sure, the divorce finalized and I started rebuilding, but there were other layers of fear, shame, and paranoia that came after. This email is about that. The first thing that hit me after I kicked her out wasn't relief. It was fear. And not just the fear of being alone. I'm talking about the fear that she may have left me with something I couldn't get rid of. When you find out your spouse has been cheating, and not just with one person, but multiple people, your mind starts racing. I remember lying awake at night thinking, what if she gave me something? I'd replay every cough, every ache, every time I felt off in my body. It's almost like your brain turns into a horror movie projector, showing you all the worst case scenarios. I was terrified to go get tested. I put it off for a couple of weeks because I didn't want to know. I know that sounds stupid, because logically, the sooner you know, the better. But emotionally, I was thinking, if they tell me I'm positive for something, that's it. My life changes forever. When I finally worked up the courage to go to the clinic, my hands were sweating so badly that I had to wipe them on my jeans before filling out the paperwork. Sitting in that waiting room was one of the loneliest feelings in the world. Everyone in there was just scrolling their phones, minding their business, but I felt like there was a spotlight on me. Like everyone knew why I was there. The nurse asked me routine questions, if I had been exposed, if I had any symptoms, and I had to admit that my wife had been cheating for years. Saying it out loud made me feel pathetic, even though I was the victim. I kept thinking about all those times she came home late, showered immediately, and brushed me off. The puzzle pieces just clicked together in that moment, and my stomach dropped. The testing itself was quick, but the waiting for results? That was hell. A week of my life felt like a year. Every time my phone buzzed, my heart stopped. I didn't tell anyone I was getting tested, not even my cousin, the one who helped me with the lawyer. It was my private battle. At night, I'd sit there with my thoughts, thinking about how unfair it all was. I was faithful. I kept my vows, and yet here I was terrified that I might have my life altered because of someone else's choices. When the results finally came back negative across the board, I can't describe the relief I felt. I sat in my car in the parking lot of the clinic, head on the steering wheel, just breathing. I thanked God out loud. I knew then that I had dodged a bullet. But at the same time, that fear changed me. After that, my whole outlook on relationships shifted. I used to believe in giving people the benefit of the doubt. I used to believe that love could cover flaws. That trust was something you give freely until it's broken. Not anymore. I remember my buddy Marcus, the same one who warned me about her years ago, telling me, "Ray, you can't let one bad apple ruin the whole tree." He meant well, but it's not that easy. When you've been betrayed on that level, trust doesn't just bounce back. It dies, and then it has to be rebuilt brick by brick. I found myself pulling back from everyone. Even in casual conversations with women, I'd hear alarm bells in my head. If someone laughed too hard at a text or flipped their phone screen down, my stomach turned. I became hyper aware of signs of dishonesty, almost to a paranoid level. For a long time, I swore off relationships altogether. I told myself, you can't trust a soul, so why even bother? I buried myself in work, spent more time with my guy friends, and told them I was done. Of course, some of them tried to convince me otherwise. They'd say things like, not all women are like that, or don't let her ruin your future happiness. But they didn't get it. It wasn't just about her cheating. It was about the years of gaslighting, the years of me ignoring my gut, the years of lies I believed. I realized how easy it is to be manipulated when you're in love. That's what scared me the most. It wasn't just that she betrayed me. It was that I let it happen by choosing to look away. If it happened once, what's to stop it from happening again? Some nights I'd sit around with my friends and the conversation would eventually turn to relationships. I remember one night in particular at Marcus's house. A few of the guys were talking about dating apps, about how easy it was to meet women these days. They were swapping stories about matches, hookups, and successes. I just sat there quiet, sipping my beer, half listening. One of them, James, looked at me and said, "Ray, man, when are you getting back out there?" I laughed it off, but deep down the thought made me anxious. I pictured myself meeting someone, getting close, trusting again, only to be back in that same nightmare. I said, "Nah, I'm good. Y'all go ahead and play in that field. I'm retired." Everyone laughed, but I meant it. I noticed over time that I built a wall around myself. If a woman showed interest, I'd deflect or downplay it. My coworkers even joked that I was cold or hard to read, but they didn't know what I had been through. Another thing I noticed after the divorce was how small my circle became. Before, my life had been tied up with her world, her friends, her colleagues, her social outings. I never liked that crowd. They were the type who thrived on drama, gossip, and secrets. But because I was her husband, I got dragged along to dinners and gatherings. After the split, those people vanished. They weren't my friends, and I didn't want them to be. Instead, I leaned harder into the friendships I knew were real. Marcus, James, my cousin, and a couple of old buddies from college who had always kept it real with me. We'd have long nights playing cards, talking about life, and clowning each other like nothing had changed. That group kept me sane. They didn't push me to heal faster than I could. They just let me be. Still, whenever the topic of relationships came up, I'd get quiet. I'd change the subject or go grab another drink. I didn't want to think about starting over, and I definitely didn't want to talk about trust. Here's the thing. True story. Betrayal doesn't just end when the divorce papers are signed. It lingers. It lives in your head. Even when I was alone, I'd find myself replaying old arguments with her. Times where I knew something was off but let it slide. Times where she accused me of cheating just to cover up her own actions. I'd lay in bed thinking, man, how did I let this woman play me like that for so long? It got to the point where I'd question myself in everyday situations. If a friend canceled plans, I'd wonder if they were lying. If a coworker complimented me, I'd second guess their intentions. It wasn't just women. It was everyone. That's when I realized that the worst part about betrayal isn't the act itself. It's how it warps your ability to trust people in general. I've gotten better over time, but even now, I'm not the same guy I was before all this. I'm more cautious, more guarded, maybe even a little jaded. But I guess that's the cost of experience. If I could give advice to younger guys, I'd tell them this. Protect yourself. Not just physically, but emotionally. Don't ignore your instincts. Don't be afraid to walk away the second something feels off. And for the love of God, you don't be scared to get tested if you ever suspect infidelity. That week of waiting might be brutal, but it's better than living in ignorance. So yeah, that's the part of the story I left out. The fear, the paranoia, the walls I built afterward. I'm not proud of how much it changed me, but I am proud that I survived it. Some days, I think about dating again. Other days, I tell myself I'll stay single forever. Maybe the truth is somewhere in the middle, but one thing's for sure. I'll never be that naive 22-year-old kid again, ignoring red flags and thinking love is enough. Thanks again for letting me share my story, true story. Maybe this update will reach someone who's in the same spot I was in, afraid, confused, and thinking they're alone. Trust me, you're not alone. Also, I just have to say I'm impressed. The amount of work, the dedication, the years of consistency you've put into giving men a platform to tell their stories, that's no small thing. I think sometimes people underestimate how powerful it is to hear another man speak his truth, especially when it comes to something as painful and taboo as being cheated on. When I first found your channel, I didn't realize how much I needed it. Hearing other men's stories reminded me that I wasn't crazy, I wasn't weak, and I definitely wasn't alone. There's something healing about knowing your pain isn't unique, that someone else has been there, and that they made it through. That's why I respect the grind you've been on. For years now, you've been publishing stories, giving guys a space to be raw and unfiltered, and not sugarcoating what betrayal really does to a man. I can only imagine the amount of emails you have to sift through, the editing, the recording, the uploads. It's work, and yet you've been consistent. That's impressive. I also appreciate how you handle the stories with care. You let the words speak for themselves, and you don't twist them for clicks. That's rare these days, especially on YouTube, where everything is about algorithms and chasing trends. You've built something solid, a community where men can find honesty and support. From me personally, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for putting in the hours. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being the reason so many men don't feel isolated in their pain. What you've built has real value, and I'm grateful for it. Keep doing what you're doing, man. The respect I have for you and your channel is solid. Years from now, people will look back at this body of work and realize how important it was.